3 intense stories and a goofy Christmas story. How about that on the docket today? Can't decide what the headlines are going to be, but they are here. We'll get into this in a second, crazy update on that United Healthcare CEO shooting, which is on its own crazy enough yesterday in Midtown Manhattan. But boy, what we just learned just a couple of hours ago is even nuttier. This is nice to see, though. So again, I told you, they were all like intense stories to lead it off today. Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, not backing down one iota, and it's already having an effect. Boy, was this nice to see. And I don't think this is something that would have happened even a few years ago. But they have this mandate we've all talked about from the American people, from all of us, pulling Trump over the finish line, get him in there again. America's ready to fight back against this kind of stuff. And Pete Hegseth, who's been in the public eye now for over 10 years on TV, none of these allegations against him, none of them came out until what? He was a threat to the Democrats to have a very, very influential job in the Department of Defense. And they've decided to go after him most importantly. He's like the tip of the arrow, the one they want to pick off. There's a reason for that, too. Daniel Penny trial, also in New York, is happening. The jury has the case. Apparently, they've asked some questions about this. This is turning out to be one of the most important cases, I swear to you, and I don't think it's hyperbole, in American history. The entire country is watching this, and it's not just about Daniel Penny's life. It's about all of us and it really is. It comes down to this. It comes down to, are these lunatic prosecutors in certain cities and certain districts going to protect American people, law-abiding citizens, or the bad guys? It's that simple. Who are you going to protect? Law-abiding citizens, or are you going to favor the bad guys? We have a quote from the prosecutor, the lady who's in charge, who will determine, once she gets it out of the hands of the jury, the life of Daniel Penny, how he's going to serve out the rest of his life. Wait till you hear this quote from her, and you'll completely understand why this is such a scary thing. And we'll wrap it up with, I'm making an executive decision. I'm going to start to impart some words of wisdom, whether or not you want it. Unsolicited life advice from me, I'm going to call wicked wisdom. And because this is the perfect time to do it during the holidays. Kind of a communication kind of thing, but it's about self-gifting. I was happy to see this, too. More and more people feel no guilt whatsoever about getting themselves something during the holiday season. I'll tell you why that's a great thing. All right, let's kick it off. All right, this crazy story yesterday that happened, I think it was right after we got off the pod yesterday, got off the live stream with the United Healthcare CEO. The guy's only 50, was only 50, by the way. Brian Thompson, shot in Midtown Manhattan. This did hit a little bit close to home to me because I was just there. I was telling you I was in New York with my wife and family for Thanksgiving. Right in that area, my wife wanted to watch the Macy's parade, and where we picked it to watch this thing, because you don't want to be like right in front of Macy's. It's like insane. So we were under some scaffolding right around 52nd Street, right near where this thing happened. So it was in front of the Hilton Hotel. I know exactly where it was. And the guy was assassinated by a shooter. I mean, right there in broad daylight. It was early in the morning, but it happened right there. This was the update from the NYPD commissioner. Her name is Jessica Tisch. This is what she said.
I want to be clear. At this time, every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack. Millions of people will be enjoying the tree lighting tonight, among other holiday events, and the NYPD will be out there with them, keeping them safe.
Well, that's the concern, right? The concern for anybody, in a situation. If it didn't happen in New York, if it happened in your neck of the woods, in your city, you wonder the same thing. You're like, God, I hope this wasn't random. And that's such a sad thing, but our minds always go to it, right? You're like, okay, well, that's tragic and horrible. But secondly, I hope this just wasn't some random attack, because then you got like a Joker situation on the streets. But look to everybody like it was definitely targeted. And then you start to wonder, and we all become like private investigators because we've all seen these cases on TV before. Maybe nothing this extreme, but you start to wonder. You're like, well, maybe it was like a disgruntled either ex-employee or somebody that knew him, but kind of seems to be personal. Yeah. With the update that came out this morning, just a couple of hours ago, get this, now confirmed, and because it's New York and the media sources got a hold of this first from their sources inside the NYPD. Get this, the bullet casings found on the ground that are now evidence had written on them, check this out, written on the bullet casings, Depose, deny, and defend. Yeah, I'd say that's personal, okay? That's a personal message from somebody that wanted to take this guy out. And the shooter's still at large. I really didn't think that was possible, especially in a city like New York, to have somebody on the run, on the lam, as they'd say, for that amount of time. But he is. It's like a $10,000 reward or something else like this. But man, boy, is that crazy. I don't know what we're going to find. And we may not, I'm just warning you now, we may not get the full story and what exactly happened here, because you're talking about a very prominent corporate CEO who was assassinated on a street. Then definitely don't want copycat crimes. So there's a possibility we may not get all of the details of what went on behind this. They'll find the guy, and they'll find out a little bit of his background, but the full motive we may never hear. I just prepare yourself for that now, because they don't want copycat crimes. They don't want anybody that's so pissed off at greedy corporations taking out more executives. Apparently his wife had said that he had gotten online threats before. They don't know whether it was from the shooter or not. If that had happened and you're a corporate CEO, wouldn't you have some protection? I think I would. I think I would hire some extra. I mean, the guy it's United Healthcare. It's a massive organization. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I kind of assumed they had corporate security protection anyway. I don't know. We're all learning about this thing. But depose, deny, and defend written on the bullets. Yeah, that's the biggest understatement of all time that was personal. Whoa. All right, also in New York, and not to make this all about New York City, but can't determine where the headlines come from. That's where they're coming from today. Jury deliberations resume, I don't know, probably right about now, live in New York City for the very, very important Daniel Penny trial. You remember, we were just talking about this the other day before yesterday. This is the former Marine. He was in New York City. He had just come from working at the Y's on a subway train, happens to sit there, packed car, and a lunatic takes off his jacket and drugged out of his mind and was threatening and getting in the face of and saying he was going to kill everybody in the subway car. So Daniel Penny got up, citizen hero, put the guy in a chokehold. The guy dies. Toxicology reports already determined that he didn't die from the chokehold. He died from everything else that was in his system. The guy was a complete drug addict. But Daniel Penny's on trial right now for murder, and the jury has his life in their hands. The update on this is apparently it's taken a while. It's in the second day of deliberations. They're going into it now because they had some questions about this. So maybe that's an indication of reasonable doubt. I don't know. This is what I know. The entire country is watching this case. I don't think it's hyperbole, like I said in the introduction. I really, truly don't. I believe this. I think this is one of the most important cases in American history for society. Not even the legal aspect of it. For the rest of us, because we're all watching these lunatic, and I mean lunatic, neo-Marxist prosecutors that have been inserted into a lot of these cities. Definitely New York. Chicago's got them. LA is bad too. Even in some of the smaller counties and towns throughout America, they are there. It comes down to this. I really think it's this simple of a question. I really, truly, truly believe this. Are we going to allow the legal system in this country to protect law-abiding citizens like you and me, or are they going to protect the bad, dangerous people? Well, you can't I've had people say that to me. You can't oversimplify it like that. The hell I can't. What are you talking about? Of course I can. That's exactly what this is. Well, when it comes to legal affairs, I'm certainly no lawyer. Maybe you are. But I always go to Alan Dershowitz because he's not afraid to tell you the truth, but he's certainly not conservative, which is why I think he has a lot of credibility. This is what he says about this case. Listen, it's pretty wild, actually. I've listened to Alan Dershowitz for a long time. This may be one of the strongest statements I've ever heard him say. Most of his ire is directed at Alvin Bragg, right? The prosecutor, the DA in Manhattan. This is what Alan said yesterday.
This is a case that never should have been brought. This is a case that would never have been brought had the alleged victim not been black.
Wow.
This is a case which was brought as the result of protests on the street, not a fair application of the law. And I believe that ethics committees should be looking into District Attorney Bragg relating to his decision to bring this case, his decision to bring the Trump case. He has become a danger to the rule of law in America.
Didn't he say it? Didn't he say it just like we tried to? But I was a long-winded kind of way of saying it. Alan Dershowitz said it perfectly. What's on trial here is the future of our society. What are we going to allow as people, as society? This is why there's so much focus on this. Obviously, it's tragic, and you don't want this to happen to Daniel Penny, and you hope that this jury has enough common sense to realize that the guy should not spend a day behind bars. We need more Daniel Pennies, not less. But it's more than that, isn't it? What are we going to allow as a society? We're going to stop sleepwalking and allow lunatic prosecutors and DAs to be inserted into these communities. Big cities like that. Big city. If that can happen to Daniel Penny, I will guarantee you that can happen to you, me, or anybody else that decides to step up and protect their fellow citizens. Because what's the end result? You're in New York or Chicago or Boston or LA, Atlanta, whatever, and you see something like this happening. What's the first thing that's going to run through your mind if this is allowed to go through and that guy is going to jail for murder? What's the first thing you're thinking? Oh, I want to help that lady who's being robbed. Oh, but I don't want to go to jail myself. You can't have that. You can't. That's where the fabric of society falls apart. And that's why this case is so important. We have to get rid of these lunatic prosecutors. They're crazy. Their sense of right and wrong is completely twisted, and they will have you and me and everybody else that's a law-abiding citizen dead if they have their choice. Because they will prefer and they will cater to the bad people in society. Well, that's oversimplistic, Bill. It's a lot more than that. No, it's not. Bullshit. It's not. It is that simple. It is that simple, and we've gotten into this situation because we talked ourselves out of the simplicity of the situation. They favor bad people instead of favoring good people, law-abiding citizens. And it's that frickin' easy. And they'll twist the law as much as they want to protect the bad people. Well, you don't know that for sure. Oh, I don't? Let's go to a quote earlier on a, I don't know, it might have been a live stream, interview, podcast, whatever. Here's the lady in charge right now of handing down the sentence and going after and presenting the case against Daniel Penny, citizen hero. Here she is. Her name is Daphne Uran. Daphne Uran. She is the assistant Manhattan DA. And so they gave her the case to prosecute Daniel Penny, citizen hero. Okay? Now she's talking about in this interview a case that started in 2018. A bad guy, a lunatic, robbed an old man who was in his late 60s, I think, might have been 70s, at an ATM. Old guy dies. So they were going to bring up the bad guy on murder charges. Well, yeah, Daphne Uran reduced the charges because she saw an opportunity, and I'm quoting here, for a transformative outcome. No, you know what? He had a tough background. Here's her quote explaining that entire situation. Here she is again. Again, keep in mind, this is the person in charge of prosecuting Daniel Penny.
The more I learned about the defendant and his life and the circumstances, the kinds of things that Jarrell was talking about, that one should take into account the trauma of that individual. I really felt incredibly sorry for him that he had gotten to that point in his life where he felt like there was no other choice but to commit this robbery.
There was no other choice but to commit a robbery that led to the death of an old guy at an ATM who was just there living his life, trying to get some money out of a cash machine. He had no other choice. There are millions of people every single day that I would guarantee you have a worse background, upbringing, and life than that murderer who had a choice. They decided not to get somebody killed. That's what they did. End result, by the way, because Daphne Uran saw here's the quote, opportunity for a transformative outcome. The guy that murdered the old guy at the ATM got 10 years. 10 years. Yeah. Did you consider the background of the family that lost their loved one, their dad, their granddad? Did you consider that? No, they never do. And I'll say it again. These people are lunatics. They are completely twisted. They will get you killed ahead of the bad people because they had a tough background. Ugh. This needs to stop, and this is why this Daniel Penny trial is so important. Really, what's on trial here, technically, by the letter of the law, is Daniel Penny, and let's hope that he is able to live his life and the jury comes to a common sense decision here. What's on trial are these crazy, insane leftist prosecutors who I will tell you, I'm still convinced that there is a determination here to tear apart at the fabric of all society. Again, and I've gotten in trouble for saying this. People argue with me all the time. It is that simple. Yes, it is that simple. They want to defend and almost honor the bad people, the violent people in society, and favor them, give them favor, work for them, even as a prosecutor, over law-abiding citizens like you and me. She's on trial. That prosecutor's on trial. Alvin Bragg is on trial. All of these, the law, society's on trial on this thing. That's why this Daniel Penny case is so important. We're watching. If this guy spends a day in jail, I'm telling you, we're all going to have to say enough is enough. You can hope the administration gets it done. But what's going to happen is ordinary citizens, because we've been busy living our lives, right? Being good people, trying to be productive members of society. We haven't had time, like what Alan Dershowitz was talking about there, rioting on the streets, demanding that people like Jordan Neely, the guy, the lunatic on the subway train who wound up dying because of his drug abuse, not the chokehold. They rallied in the streets because they have time to do it, apparently, to stand up for his rights. Well, we're going to have to start standing up for the rights of ordinary Americans and demanding that lunatic prosecutors like that get exited, because it's terrible. We're watching. We're watching New York. We're watching you, Daniel Penny. I hope so. We'll see. All right, here's another fight that's going on here, and it's good to see, actually. Pete Hegseth not backing down. He, of course, the two Ivy League degree holder. He is the combat veteran, TV host. He's an author. And now, of course, as you well know by now, more people know him than ever, Trump's pick for head of the Department of Defense, the Secretary of Defense. Well, now all of a sudden, because he's the pick and he's a threat to the Democrats, all of the dirt's coming out about poor Pete. They're all coming after him now. Well, here's something that's different that I don't think we would have seen even in 2016. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think we actually saw this when they started going after Trump's picks. They started to pick him off and they would back down. Oh, it's a different game now. Yeah, the Matt Gaetz thing was one thing, and he did back off, but I think that was a different plan. But Pete Hegseth, not backing down one bit, which is nice to see. And he's got the support of Trump, which he talks about a little bit right here. He did a little impromptu press conference after some of these meetings yesterday, and this is what Pete Hegseth said.
That's what Donald Trump asked me to do. Your job is to bring a war-fighting ethos back to the Pentagon. Your job is to make sure that it's lethality, lethality, lethality. Everything else is gone. Everything else that distracts from that shouldn't be happening. That's the message I'm hearing from senators in that advise and consent process. It's been a wonderful process.
Good. Love it. Not backing down, fighting back. He'll go down fighting. I love that. That's what you need. And isn't that the kind of person you need heading up the Department of Defense, to be honest with you? I think so. See what happens. I think he's got more support now because he didn't back down. Love it. Let's see. Oh, by the way, Trump going on. This was interesting. This was announced yesterday. I think it's going to air this weekend, I think. But Trump is sitting down with Kristen Welker from NBC, the media outlet that brought all these baseless allegations and unnamed sources against Pete Hegseth. Why would that happen? If, you always use that technique where you personalize it. Don't take it personally, but personalize it. If somebody had come out with baseless allegations against, let's say, one of your friends, would you sit down and talk with them? Because I don't think I would. Trump's a different animal. I think he wants to do this to go on full attack mode. And let's face it, he doesn't mind the camera time. To directly go after NBC for what they're alleging against Pete Hegseth. I don't know. Surprising move. I don't know why he would do it, but I think maybe that's why. I don't know. We'll see how that turns out. All right. A lot of heady, hefty headlines today. Let's lighten it up a little bit with this one. Nice to see. And this is the time of the year where we get all the goofy holiday stories coming out, right? I love my sociological survey. Survey said 42% of us, I don't know who they asked, 42% of us will buy Christmas gifts for ourselves this year. I have been tracking this because I'm fascinated by this. The number goes up every single year. And again, this is about the time, a few weeks before Christmas, where they come up with stories like this, where people don't care anymore and they say, yep, this is for me. This one's for you. Got your Christmas. Well, I'm buying this for me. And this is coming right after Cyber Monday, right, which was the biggest in history. I'm glad to see this happen. That's up from 38% when the same poll was done just a year ago. Good. Now, you may see this as selfish. I don't at all. And I'm going to give you some wicked wisdom on this. Unsolicited life advice that you didn't ask for, but I'm going to give you anyway. Because, let's face it, who's going to stop me? Don't ever feel guilty about getting something for yourself. Ever. Ever, ever. Christmas time, summertime, whatever it is. If you find something that fits for you, parents, especially you, get it for yourself. Because that's what you're going to tell yourself. And if you're starting to feel that little twinge of guilt, just a little bit, this is what you tell yourself. I work my ass off, and I deserve this. There's your wicked wisdom for today. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Appreciate it very much. A lot of headlines, a lot of news stories to watch out for that we'll update you on tomorrow. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. That is for sure. And we'll have some more goofy holiday stuff as well to talk about to lighten it up. Audio podcast going to be posted here very shortly, wherever you get those, whatever platform you prefer. This will live on as a replay right here on X and on YouTube as well. We'll expand that. I'll have some news about that later on in the week as well. Probably next week on other platforms, but as of right now. Thanks for hanging out with me. Our takeaway, always fight back, whether you're Daniel Penny or Pete Hegseth or somebody else. And don't ever feel guilty about self-gifting. Don't take any crap from anybody either. Like Pete Hegseth, see? Not taking any crap. Thanks for hanging out with me. I will talk to you tomorrow.